This morning I was doing some digging on the impact of alcohol on unborn babies. And the research went in different directions to what I initially planned, but I still found some alarming facts, and I thought that I'd want to share that with you. So the first thing that I found is that South Africa has the highest rate of fetal alcohol syndrome disorder in the world. A study done on a community in guess where, the Western Cape, revealed that 310 out of every 1,000 births resulted in a baby who had fetal alcohol syndrome disorder. I have my own guesses as to what that community or where that community is, and it would probably be related to a farming community. So despite all of this, I've also noticed that there is no comprehensive policy in South Africa to deal with this very critical problem. Now, when apparently we talk about a comprehensive policy, it is a policy that deals with things at all levels. So first of all, we want to look at prevention of a thing, that it doesn't start in the first place, right? Then we need to look at early diagnosis of the thing so that we can start intervening with the thing as early as possible and be effective in our intervention process. Then we also need a whole management strategy that involves all kinds of expertise, multi-stakeholder engagement, etc. That's a comprehensive policy. We don't have such a thing. So we have, let's just state that again, because we all need to take it in. We have the largest rate of fetal alcohol syndrome disorder in the world, and we do not have a comprehensive policy and strategy to deal with the problem. They say you're not supposed to waste time on a TikTok. Me now, I'm just going to sit here and stare into the screen and think, how is that even possible? And then because I spoke about the DOP system, quite obviously I want to go back there. Now I've got some stuff here on my laptop that I want to read. So there's going to be some pauses, which I'm not going to edit because you know I don't do the editing thing. So remember I said we have to go back and we have to go back and we have to go back. Okay, let's go all the way back to 1652. Settlers arrive here. There is an indigenous community. We're not going to use blacks and browns and coloreds and what. We're going to say indigenous community. Ne? We are all now aware of the fact that there were settlers who arrived with an indigenous community already here. These settlers decided that they needed to, one, make sure that the indigenous community became cheap labor and that they became easy to control. So what they did was they started feeding them with alcohol. They placed them in the worst conditions imaginable, like not allowing toilet breaks, like putting them in vile living conditions. And then what they did was they offered this tot system, the little tots of alcohol or a liter of whatever, the cheapest, most disgusting wine that was not fit for sale or profit making. They offered that to their workers so as to get them addicted and easily controlled. Now we go to 1838, and by this time, a whole community, when we speak about whole communities, we start speaking about things like genocides and erasures. Remember that. A whole community was now addicted. Young boys, as young as 12 years old, were now fully addicted to alcohol. And so this way, they would keep coming back to these inhumane conditions, even though the practice gets outlawed along the way. It didn't matter that the practice got outlawed because the reality is that they were already addicted. We went from free tots to cheap liquor being sold, and then eventually a credit system being put in place So that now the little money that they did earn, because remember the payment system involved three things: bread, no protein, bread, tobacco, and it was measured in terms of how long, okay? So much tobacco for so much hours of work, and alcohol. And so when these practices became illegal, the settlers found other ways to make sure that people remain enslaved. And so they started selling cheap liquor. They started making credit systems available to keep people enslaved. The little money they earned was in any case owing to the baas, because now they had to pay for the cheap liquor, which otherwise was not fit for human consumption. And as we continue now, remember I started speaking now where? 1652. And then we went to 1838, by which time there was full substance dependence. And now we are here in 2025. No comprehensive policy to have dealt with the fact that we had a system to enslave people to alcohol, and that the fetal alcohol syndrome disorder was a direct result of that, and the reason that we have the highest rate of it in communities in the Western Cape. There's some other bits here, but let me pause to find my notes. I'm reading from an article or a booklet from an organization called Dop Stop. I did try to find their website, but it said that site wasn't working, etc. So I will post the link to this particular PDF in the comments below. It was very difficult to find research papers, and I find that interesting because so many people have profited off of the research done on highly victimized, marginalized communities. They got their PhDs, they got their accreditations, they got their qualifications, and now when you try and access those research papers, you get as far as reading the excerpt or whatever, and then you click on it, and then it says you must now pay or something. So that's another whole debate, but let's go with this. Criminalization of the practice in 1961. 1652, can you do the math? 1652 to 1961 did not address the alcohol dependence experienced by farm workers. Of course it wouldn't, because there was no policy. Right. Scrolling down, sorry for the time that I'm wasting. There's just something I want to read here that was, it really got me. It said here, one farmer said that if I have a vegetable farm, I give my workers vegetables. And if I run a wine farm, I give my workers wine. Think about that. We also know that it didn't stop. It didn't stop in 1961. I've seen so many TikToks where the descendants of settlers, still now, up to this day, keep their workers enslaved and just in a particular mental state, altered mental state, to be easily abused. My time is coming to an end, and that's why I'm always watching the time thing there. There was so much else here. I'm not going to be able to fit it in. There was lots of information about the connection, the deliberate connection between feeding people alcohol so that they become violent when they no longer cope with the violence that they're already living in, the violence of abuse, the violence of oppression. If you do have better information, please share it with us.